For this, and I don't want to cut anybody's time short here. I want to welcome everybody to the 2017 One Book, One Community kickoff program for the book Dreamland, written by best-selling author Sam Quinones. I'm Molly Hedges. I am a member of the One Book, One Community Committee and also a member of the Pickaway Addiction Action Coalition, commonly known as PAC. I'll be the moderator for the panel tonight. As many of you already know, the One Book, One Community program is a community-wide reading program that brings people together through reading and discussing a common book. The opiate crisis has reached epidemic proportions in Ohio, and Pickaway County is seeing its share of related fatalities. As a result of this crisis, Burger Health Foundation, Pickaway County Public Library, and PAC have joined forces in bringing this series of discussion groups and panel discussions to you to help you gain some more knowledge about drug addiction, opiate addiction in particular, and also to sort of arm you with possibly suggestions of things that you can do to help in our community. Tonight's panel will focus primarily on the topic when drug addiction knocks on your door. Each panelist will be given an opportunity to share about the expertise that they are going to be representing. As far as the students in the middle and their advisor are concerned, it'll be more the anti-drug school activities that they're participating in. And everyone should have received a file card when you came in, when you signed in. If you have questions as we're going along, please write them down, and either Tanja Dum or Michelle Callahan will be collecting them. And then when we get finished with each of the panelists speaking, we'll address some of those questions. If you choose not to have your question answered in public, you can put your contact information on the card, and then we will contact you in the next day or so. Also, the PAC committee has a favor to ask you. You can also write suggestions or ideas about how the PAC board can engage the citizens of Pickaway County to move forward together to support people with addiction and their families. Because that's one of the things where we're having lots of people approach us and say, what can we do to help? You know, we want to help. Well, we need suggestions, okay? We need not only suggestions from the community, but also from the different agencies. And when we have our next advisory council meeting, we hope to get more of that information. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And we're going to start with Julie Chafin, who is the parent of an addict, and she's now going to share her personal perspective on drug addiction. Julie? Should be already on. Okay. Nope, it's not. Nope.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight. Again, my name is Julie Chafin. I am a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a stepmother, I'm a shoe store manager, a dance teacher, and a mother of an addict. Never did I think I would be saying a mother of an addict. Growing up, my son was your typical little boy. He loved playing Legos, Matchbox cars, any type of sport, and playing outdoors. He played Little League baseball, basketball, and golf. My son was a high school golf standout, winning many county, league, and district awards. My blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy was truly your all-American kid. Over the last 5 years, I saw a change in my son. He was constantly switching jobs, moving from place to place. I tried keeping tabs on him the best I could, but with him being an adult, it was a little difficult. Finally, about 2 years ago, I had figured out what was going on with him, and I knew he needed help, the type of help that I was not capable of giving or trained in giving. My son's drug of choice was meth and Percocets. I had researched several types of rehab facilities, and he wanted no part of that. He did agree to let me take him to the doctor. He had been going through withdrawals. No mother likes to see their kids sick, but watching him go through withdrawals was something I will never forget. He was so sick. He was pale. He was vomiting. He was extremely thin. He had no strength. He was lethargic. When I took him to the doctor, my 6-foot boy weighed 123 pounds. At that time, he had made the decision to quit using. While I thought maybe he had hit his rock bottom, I knew in my heart that he needed treatment in order to beat this. I hate that I was right, because he started using and manufacturing as soon as he got his strength back, which ultimately led to a mother's worst nightmare. My son was arrested and in jail. I had made the decision to not bail him out. He was safe in jail and not using. Seeing your son walk in a courtroom in handcuffs and wearing the orange jail suit was one of the most difficult things I have ever done. He had made bad choices, and he needed to face the consequences of those bad choices. I found a faith-based program for Blaine, where he spent the next 10 months in the program. He succeeded and did very well while he was there. He was reunited with God, and I felt like I had my boy back. Life was good. I have learned so much about addiction, and I still have so much more to learn. I do know that addiction does not discriminate. Addiction is deadly. Addiction is a very serious problem, especially in our community. Most important, addiction can be beaten, but it takes a lot of work to be done. My story goes on just like what you read about addiction and the relapses that go along with it. Recently, my son had a relapse. He spent 30 days in jail. I'm happy to report that he is out of jail now and back working again. He is enrolled in an intense outpatient treatment program. Through this whole experience, I have reached out to so many people in our community. I was faced with this situation, and I didn't know what to do to get my son the help he needed. I was not asking for any special treatment or privileges. I was just asking for help and guidance. I truly didn't know what to do. I am proud to be from such a caring and supportive community. Our Sheriff's Department, judges, probation officers, PAC members, and local pharmacists truly care. With that being said, I was able to get enough information and get my son in a Vivitrol program. So there again, I have a lot more to learn, but just knowing that there has been great success with that, it's worth trying. Addiction not only affects the addict, it affects the entire family. An addict's parents, siblings, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins are affected as well. Mothers always worry about their children, and as a mother of an addict, you worry even more. I have been amazed at how many people in this community truly have a connection with somebody that's an addict. I am happy to be a part of the Pickaway Addiction Action Coalition, where we are moving forward to end addiction. I want to share my story. I want to be involved. I want to learn more about addiction. And I want to help save another mother's child.
Thanks, Julie. Pastor Doug Shosky is next, and he's from the Refuge in Benton County, and I'd like him to share some information about the Refuge and its mission.
Can I stand up?
You may do whatever you like.
Cool. All right. I just like to see people. So then I try to add a little bit of humor because it makes me feel better talking in front of people. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll start a little tiny bit. I really won't get too much into my story, but I was on meth, post in high school some, post high school, so I kind of ran my family through the ringer. And so if you read in the book, apparently it talks about like really the heroin epidemic made like the early 2000s really taking off in America. So I kind of feel fortunate that it wasn't really like the main deal back then, but today, so I work for the Refuge Ministry. I went there myself when I was 20. I'm 36, almost 37, so I'm married for 10 years, right? My wife's not here, so. So 10 years, I got 3 kids. Anyway, so went through the refuge, left the refuge, planted my roots a little bit here in Circleville, went to good old Circleville Bible College, Circleville Bridal College, that's where I met my wife, so I held true to that, Did you meet your wife there? Amen. All right, was that good? All right, so if you're looking for a wife, all right, anyway, don't take that, for the gospel. Right? We got some high school kids here, I don't want to encourage them. Anyway, left the refuge, and then after the refuge, really the first 6 months were worse than ever. There's a scripture in the Bible that talks about, hey, if a demon leaves you and, then it comes back, it'll bring 7 more with it kind of thing. So it's kind of like anybody that I've ever met in addiction is like, hey, when I fall off the wagon, it always gets worse. So whether you want to talk about like demons and this and that or whatever, but usually you draw a line and then you move past that line. And then you draw another line and then you cross that line. So, addiction, and we like to say sin, it has no boundaries. It's worse than you can imagine, kind of thing. So anyway, Circle Bible College, and then eventually I went and got my master's in counseling. Then I worked for Cider Paint Valley Mental Health, did that for a little while, and then I had the opportunity to come back on staff with the refuge. It's going on 2 years ago, so moved back to Circleville. I was living in Mount Sterling for about 10 years, and I worked actually in Washington Courthouse, Cider Paint Valley, so not the one here. But I did know Vince. If anybody knows Vince, I like Vince. Right? So anyway. So I feel fortunate to have an opportunity to serve in the way that we do. And so when I see different members of the community, whether it's a doctor or a banker or different types of drug and alcohol, we all play a part. So I was a crisis worker, so I spent many days in the emergency room with people who drug overdosed, and then I spent many days in the jails with the jailers who had people who were, hey, I'm suicidal, I'm at the end of myself, whatever. The bankers, I'm sure, who get the drug addiction people coming in and stealing their family's money and all that stuff, and they're like, hey, that my son took $20,000 from my account and all this stuff. So there is no really aspect of society that it's not hitting on, So anyways, what we do at the refuge, I'll kind of just throw that out there. We're faith-based, been around since 1999, so going on 18 years. Literally, I was the first guy that went through it. Just so happens, it wasn't like I chose to be the first guy. It had just opened up, and that's just the way that it is, kind of thing. So anyway, we are a 4-step program. It's 13 months long, and basically we say we're a hand up, not a handout. And so what we mean by that is like we want to take you from being addicted to a responsible man of God. And so technically the program is like you work for your stay. It's not insurance-based or anything like that. So they come in, go to Vinton County for 30 days, kind of get, you could say dried out, and we, for us, we're like, hey, we want to introduce you to the Lord because we're very overt. We're not like a bait and switch, We're like, hey, we're all about Jesus. So if they get down there and they're like, oh my gosh, you're about Jesus, we're like, well, yeah, that's what we said. We're like, well, I was high that day, so I didn't really hear that. So anyway, they do that, and then so I'm over phase 2. I'm the director of phase 2, which is in Lancaster, and so then we do. It's basically 4 months, and this is where they reintegrate into society. So 1 week they're working, and then 1 week they're with me getting counseling and discipleship, what we like to say, because we're not really after sobriety for us. We say we want a responsible man of God, and so what is that? That includes sobriety, of course, for us. So anyways, then after that, then they go to Columbus. So we like to say from the holler to the hood. Okay, so they go literally Stannard Hollow Road in Vinton County is back in a holler. True? Yes, sir. All right. So and then it's the hilltop and the bottoms in Columbus. He wasn't in the refuge. He just went and visited a couple weeks ago. So if you're giving him like watching your purse, it's okay. So, anyway, so then for 3 months, then they're just working full time, and in the evenings they're going to church, and then they can start going home every other weekend. And then the fourth phase, we start to work on the launch. Hey, what are you going to do next? And then we do have some transitional housing opportunities on the back end. But again, while they're working for us, that's what pays for their stay there. And they get like a stipend in the end, like $89 a month. But again, it's amazing how hard men will work when they're like, hey, I'm working for free, but they really know that they're working for the guy behind them. So we don't serve everybody. We don't take court ordered. We don't take, we want people who want to be there. So it has to be, the motivation for being there changes everything for us. So I'm thankful for other places that do take order. I mean, praise the Lord. Every aspect serves a different aspect. So, but I live in Circleville, so 609 Garden Parkway. If you want to come by and say hi, bring me a candy bar or something. So, anyways, thank you guys for allowing me the opportunity, and also just to the point that we talked about, we don't just serve. We have people come from Seattle, Washington, New Mexico. We don't just serve the counties that we're in. We serve whoever, and it's a 4-phase process. So we have orientation every Monday morning, 12 South Terrace Avenue. If you go to the refugeohio.org, it would have all of our information. But we serve men ages 18 and older. So, and it would have all the criteria of things we don't accept as well. So, okay.
Thanks, Doug. Our next 3 people are a package deal. We have Jada Truex, who's the advisor of the Club Future, and it's a division of drug.
Yeah, Drug Free Club of America.
There you go.
I really don't need a microphone because I promise I'm loud enough without it, but I'll try to use it. He has me in class. He knows I don't need a microphone.
Go ahead and introduce him then.
This is Isaac Miller, and that's Olivia Falls out there. 2 of the 213 students we have in Circleville that are members of Club Future, which Mr. Thornsley is the principal. He went to a meeting, heard Mr. Wayne Campbell talk about Tyler's Light, and was like, what can we do? And he started talking about the Drug Free Club of America. He was like, I think we can do that at Circleville. So we met with these 2 and a couple other students at the end of last school year, and we set a goal. What was our goal? Isaac, how many kids? 50 kids. All right, we're like, all right, we're going to get 50 kids in this club, be the biggest club in the high school, and take off. And then we started the club, and we have 213. So financially, our planning was right on track, Mr. Colburn can attest. When you plan for 15, you get 215, you're a little bit off, but it's okay. It's a wonderful thing. So that's how we started. The Drug Free Club of America, I'm going to backtrack, started in Cincinnati, Ohio. Firefighters, 3 of them, were tired of overdoses and seeing young kids in overdoses, and they wanted to say, how can we help this? And so they have started this nonprofit club that there are, I don't know how many in Ohio now. Pickerington has 2 at North and Central. There are some Southern Ohio around Cincinnati area, and they're kind of growing and becoming a bigger thing. Ross County has 1 at all of their high schools now. Which is a really cool thing that they are starting down there and has taken off. So this is something that I think you're going to see more of. I know that Logan Elm and Westfall, I believe, are both going to move in this direction next year as well. So ideally we'll have the whole county on board, and it'll be a big thing in years to come. So Mr. Thornsley in that meeting was thinking much like you guys are, how can I help this problem? What can we do? And he met with me and we talked, the people that we can impact are our high school students. They are not addicts, most of them. We hope, So we're not working on the back end. We are working on the front end, trying to educate, trying to initiate conversations with family members, parents, guardians, whoever they may be, and let them talk about drugs. Let them talk about situations they are in. How can I get out of this situation? What do I need to do? How can I help? A lot of it is knowledge is power, and just initiating that conversation. So that's the basis of this club. It is not a punishment-based drug testing system. All of our students are drug tested initially at the beginning of the school year. Berger Hospital, their nurses are wonderful, and they got the laugh of their life drug testing 213 kids for the first time in their life. Let me tell you, they have stories they could tell you for days, but it was all good. And so they come out and they drug test, and once the kid tests clean, they're in the club. They get a card, and that card takes them around the community, which is really cool. And they can show it at different places, and they get some various discounts, pretty good deals at different places, which is kind of their incentive. Okay, I'm drug free, so I get some free wings tonight. That's a good thing. McDonald's just gave us a whole box of free value meals that we handed out the other day after our random drug testing. So that's kind of the goal and the basis. They do 5 random tests throughout the year, and as long as they stay clean, they stay in the club. Next year we'll start the same process over again. They do that initial test and go from there. People ask, what are you going to do with the club? How are you going to do service? Molly throws us more ideas than we could ever possibly complete in the course of a day. You guys get emails from Molly. Some of you, I know you know how that works. But we are working on it, and we are trying to figure out how, we're taking a third of our student body out whenever we take this entire club. So that's, the logistics of that have been a challenge, but we are working through that. We had a tailgate. We've had a couple meetings where we have met. We have a board of directors that we're working with on some different fundraising is a big deal too. We're going to have a race with our elementary kids. We've talked to the DARE officer. There's all kinds of possibilities and things on the burner, but it's just getting started. So, these guys are part of the initial kickoff, and our kids have been great and have really embraced and enjoy that part of things. If they do test, have a positive test, they go, and Drug Free Club of America takes care of all of it. The school does not know. They call their family. They talk to them about what has happened. They give counseling options. They give medical professional options. There's all kinds of things from that end that they can help with that we don't have to do anything with. So it's not, you can't play your next football game or you are suspended for all the basketball season. That's not the intent of it. It's, okay, you've got a drug issue here. Mom and dad, what are you going to do about this problem? And they present it with them. And then the kid, once they decide they're clean again, they're offered the chance to drug test again, and we're none the wiser. So that's kind of, it's not a punishment-based program, and the Drug Free Club of America is real big on, these kids are choosing to make this choice. They're choosing to be in this club, and so it's not a punitive type thing. So, so far it's been very positive, well received by our community. They've been great support. We live in a pretty cool place. No matter what people say or write articles about, we live in a cool place, all right? So, it's getting better, and our youth are interested in it, making improvements. Mr. Miller? He's going to tell you why he's in the Drug Free Club. He feels like an athlete up here, so if you guys want to pepper him with questions, we're getting ready.
I joined Drug Free Club so I could set a better example for elementary kids and just kids under me, and so that I can just help them to do the right thing and put them in the right direction and let them know what to do. She's going to tell you what she's doing.
Hi, I joined Club Future because I wanted to encourage my teammates to be drug-free and basically all of my friends, because I know some of them are not, but almost all of them have joined the club, and so that's good.
Now I'm going to ask you a question. Has it changed any of your thought process when you're out in an evening on the weekend? Can you answer that?
Well, I didn't do drugs before.
No, you didn't. But your friends. When you talk to your friends, is there a thought process that goes in there?
Yes,
Yes.
because they know that Monday could be a random drug test, and they could get their card taken away and lose their incentives.
That's a big deal in their world. I'll answer whatever other questions you have later. Anything
Okay.
else, Molly? You
All right.
want?
I think we're good. Pass on down to Dr. Yost. Okay, Dr. Carolyn Yost is an OBGYN with River Health Partners, and I'd like to hear what she has to say about how addiction has affected your practice.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. So I've been at Berger Hospital now for about 8 years, and just to show you or to demonstrate what a problem and how much it's growing, when I started 8 years ago, I think I saw one heroin addict, pregnant mom, ever in this training. When I was training in Columbus, the biggest problem I saw was marijuana and cocaine, and that was about it, and maybe 1 or 2 heroin patients. I came here, same thing, and then about 2 years in, we decided we better start checking people for hepatitis C, or women for hepatitis C, because it's becoming a problem. And now, today, it is rare that I'm on OB delivering, the whole floor has all 3 moms. Very rarely. About a month ago, I was rounding on a Saturday, and I rounded on 3 moms, and I realized, wow, 3 in a row that are all clean. That hasn't happened in over a year. So it is a huge problem. It's very sad. You know, I see both sides. I see the patient who's going through the problems and going through addiction, and then I see the babies. And so I see both ends. And, you know, I'm a mother. I don't think any woman would have hold a baby for 9 months and then just walk away from it. But that's how strong addiction is. I have seen mothers deliver their baby and leave the floor to go get high. I've watched women walk out of the hospital and get in a car and leave, and they leave their babies. I've seen women come in who are so high they don't even know they're in labor. Now, and I could go on. There's stories and stories and stories. And, you know, when the babies are withdrawing, it's very, very sad. These poor babies are helpless and innocent. They didn't do anything wrong. But they're irritable, they're crying, they can't eat, they're sick. Everything that an adult goes through, they go through 10 times worse. Emotional cost, they go to NICUs for weeks on end just to try to get off of these medications or off of the opiates. And when you see a woman, and sometimes I see them when they walk in labor, and sometimes I get to see them in the office, and I try to get a relationship with them and let them know that it's okay, they can talk to me. And sometimes I make a connection, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes they look at me in desperation, help me, I don't want to be on this drug anymore, and I want to have this baby. I want to give her everything I can, but I can't get off this medication. And about the opiate. And a couple years ago, we had some resources to help patients, and I saw a big turnaround. In about 2 or 3 years, women were coming to me and they weren't ashamed. They said, I have this problem, I want help, I hear there's help. And I saw a lot of women come through and get help, and they stayed clean. But unfortunately, as you know, resources are tough. Women can't drive to Columbus for help. They can't get Subutex or methadone or the things that they need to get off the medication. And so it turns into a vicious cycle. We've seen people withdraw. It's terrible. I have women come in and lie to me and say they have the flu. And when I first started, I would have believed them, and now I think they don't have the flu. They're withdrawing. I've seen that so many times now. I got no official training in this, except for my experience in the last 8 years of how to help women. On the flip side, there are happy stories where women get help, and we can help them. And I think the biggest thing we need to portray to our patients or women or family or friends, this is a disease. It is a disease. Nobody chooses this. Nobody wants to be sick. Nobody wants to withdraw, especially a pregnant mom who is carrying a life. And I don't care how high you are, at some point you feel that baby move. At some point you think about that baby, and at some point they know what they're doing, and then they use again. So it's a vicious cycle. I see it with pregnant women, and I see moms come in talking about their kids. I see patients who are in for their annual exams. They tell me stories. It is so prevalent in this community. It's unbelievable. So it's something that I see with the babies and the moms. It breaks your heart. It breaks your heart when they take the baby from the moms, and then I know she's just going to go use again because her heart's broken. But she has no help. But when we have events like this, and education, and we talk about it, and it's out in the open, and we realize that this is a disease and we need to help our friends, our family, our mothers, our fathers, our sisters, our brothers, our in-laws. I mean, it's everywhere. I'm sure everybody here could raise their hand because we all know somebody that has been touched by addiction. But if we can stop the judgment and let people know that we can help them, then maybe this will get better. But it's a big hill to go up, but I think if events like this will help just to get education out in the community.
Thank you, Dr. Yost. Okay, and the last panelist we have is Amy Seidel. She is a certified preventionist with PARS. And Amy, addiction has knocked on many doors for you. You want to share a story?
Yeah, I could sit up here and I could talk for a very long time. I am a certified prevention specialist, also a licensed chemical dependency counselor. All that began when I grew up in an addictive home, had addicted brothers, and tried to help one of my brothers, giving him all the resources possible, which I thought. So I'm thinking that my brother was going to survive the disease of addiction. He got clean, was clean for 5 years. He used one opiate pill because he didn't have medical insurance after he hurt his back, and he was dead in 4 weeks. I continue to fight even harder with prevention, knowing the recovery rate for addiction is so low. We need to try something else. Let's go at the prevention. Every $1 somebody puts into prevention, you save 37 in treatment. So as I'm working in prevention, my husband and I were fostering kids, and then my friend Mike Henderson, if anybody knows him, calls me and says, "Hey, by the way, I told somebody that you take their kid." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I told them you take their kid, but I forgot I told them several months ago. So I don't know when they're due." So a day later, a great-grandmother calls me and says, "Hey, Mike Henderson gave me your phone number. Can I talk to you about my granddaughter?" I said, "Absolutely." I said I would like to meet her, get her some resources so she can keep her own child. I was supposed to meet her 3 days later. The next day, the phone rings and says, "Congratulations, it's a boy." I said, "Okay." I called my husband and I said, "This is what they said." He says, "Well, let's go help the lady." I said, "Okay." So we go to Mount Carmel, which is a wonderful place for NICU babies. We walk in, I sit down, I talk to this lady I've never met in my life, and my buddy Mike Henderson hadn't met either. And I said, "You know, I don't really need to know what you're going through, but I can help you get where you need to be. I'd love to foster your child until you're able to take care of him. I'd love to get you help." She had 2 other children. She said, "If I would have had the money, I would have aborted him. I don't want him." Me and my husband looked at each other and said, "Okay." We walked in the NICU after she signed a piece of paper 24 hours after he was born dead. He was vomiting up blood, and he had blood in his stools. She was pregnant with, she had a placenta abruption that had ruptured a month prior to, so they think. The doctor said he's not going to survive. So my husband and we think back now, we didn't ask each other, but we knew we couldn't leave the baby alone. So we sat with him for 4 days and we just sang "Jesus Loves Me" to this little child that was all alone, nobody there. She'd already left. She actually asked us to take her back to Hilltop, and we did. And we sat with him. As I sat with him, there was 9 other babies going through withdrawal, and I knew nothing about nothing, and I thought I did, and I have an education in this. But until you sit there, until you have that baby, and you rock that baby, and there's 9 other babies in there, and there's no one there rocking the baby, all you can do is pray and say, "Somebody please help these other ones, because you can't do it alone." All the others' moms were gone, and I'm sitting there rocking somebody I knew nothing about. The nurses told me that he's probably not going to survive. He's losing a lot of weight. They think he was about 5 weeks early. He's going to continue to lose weight. I don't know why I said, other than God, he's not going to lose any more weight. And they really sat me down and said, "Hey, you really need to understand he's not going to survive." Well, he's 3 now. He survived. He's doing wonderful. He did not lose any more weight after that day. He had a huge struggle. Since that time, I have another brother who's still suffering. Me and my husband was planning our 20th wedding anniversary getaway. We had 3 children. Man, we had a crazy life, and we thought everything was, we're just going to get away. We hadn't been away forever. Well, that didn't happen. 2 days before our wedding anniversary, somebody hands us a meth-addicted child who we had to rock continuously, and I'm not exaggerating. We cannot put her down for more than 5 minutes without her screaming. You feed her, she screams, she doesn't sleep. For 2.5 months we did that. I ended up taking her to work with me, and some of my staff are here. We passed her person to person to person. She screamed bloody murder for 2.5 months. Now she is the happiest little turkey ever. But she screamed. You could do nothing except bawl. And the thing is, the mothers, the bio mothers of these babies, you could see the love in their eyes. Both of these babies are my babies. Both of these babies were prostitute babies. Both of these babies were saved because someone cared enough to try to find them help. So it's not only the addict that suffers, and I believe 110% addiction is a disease. It took my brother, it took my baby's mothers, I'm glad it didn't take my babies. I work in the field, been working in the field for about 10 years. I've seen people think that people come and we have to beg them to get clean. No, they come and they beg us to help them stop. They come and they say, the judge saved my life. And let me tell you guys something. I'm a big advocate of this. I do not work for the court system. I don't work for the county. I don't work for anybody. But as throughout this, I've done a lot of different state things. And we have the best county I've seen. There's counties who won't even admit that there's a problem. Our judges, our probation officers, our city cops, our sheriffs, they work harder than I've ever seen one. And people say, how do you get them to work? How do you get them to admit it? All I can say is they do, and I am very appreciative of that. So to me, I thought that there's no way that this would happen to me, because I've done everything after leaving an addict home to make sure that I didn't end up like that. When you are a child and you crawl underneath of a table into a corner so no one can get to you, you do everything you can do so you don't end up like that. But it still got me. It still got me. And I'm just asking each and every one of you guys to pray for the addicts, educate yourself on the disease, and try to make a difference, because each one of us can.
Thank you, Amy. Hey, if you want to have a life-changing experience, invite Amy out for a cup of coffee. If anyone has any questions on the file card that they want answered, please pass them over to the end of the aisle, and they'll be picked up by either Tanja or Larry's back there too. Amy, what do you do what would you say to someone in here if they see the warning signs of opiate abuse? What should they do?
I had to sign a piece of paper that went to a probation officer that was going to send somebody to jail for a very long time because of what they were doing as far as relapse. And those people came up to me and says, these kids will not have their daddy for Christmas because of you. And I thought to myself, boy, I wish my brother was sitting in prison right now instead of under the ground. If you see somebody that's suffering and you see the signs of abuse, confront them. Talk to them about that in a loving way. Offer them help. More than likely, if they're addicted, that's not going to help. Get law enforcement involved. Like I said, we have some wonderful law enforcement. There's things, I don't want them to go to jail. Again, I wish my brother was in jail today.
Thank you. Julie, treatment facilities stress the importance of changing the environment that the addict came from. Once they're out of treatment, how difficult has that been for your family?
It's been hard because my son has needed to make new friends or be reunited with his old friends. But yeah, you do need to change, or the people he thought were his friends were really not his friends.
Okay. So, but he was able to go back to the job that he had before that.
Yes.
So he's very fortunate.
He's very fortunate, yeah, back there, and he's been around some of his good old friends again.
Okay. All right. Doug, do you have a ballpark figure what percentage of your clients are from Pickaway County? Do you have any idea?
Yeah. I mean, I would say probably, it's not, I wouldn't say it's high. We've definitely had, we've definitely had our fair share of Pickaway County folks. I wouldn't say the percentage from Pickaway County is very high. It almost comes in droves.
Okay.
It seems like a bunch from Pickaway, a bunch from Fayette, a bunch from I don't know, it seems like when one guy comes from one place, word starts kind of getting around, and then families start connecting with that family, and then other people start coming, kind of thing. It's usually how and it kind of goes in cycles.
Okay. You had mentioned that you were working in Lancaster with one phase of the program. So what other counties or cities do you go out and do your counseling?
Yeah, no, I stay in Lancaster.
Okay.
And I just, whoever is in the refuge, because we're residential.
Right.
Yeah, so whoever comes in, the refuge. That's who I mean, my main focus is just them. And I had to stop, I mean, because I'm a professional counselor also, so people will be like, hey, can you help my kid? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I just say no, because, you know, it's just too much. My focus has to be 100% there. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Yost, I'm curious, do you track how many of your patients receive prenatal care? I mean, every single one that you deliver, do you see them for the 9 months beforehand? Before the delivery?
No one's predicted. Yes.
Do they remain anonymous?
You know, it ebbs and flows. For a while there, we were getting a lot of patients that were coming in for prenatal care because they'd heard through the community that it was okay. We would help them. We would get them resources, counseling, methadone, Subutex. So I was having a lot of patients coming in asking for help. And then it's going back down. Now we're getting, I would still say I have more that come in for care. They try, but they're still positive. You know, most patients now are pretty honest with me when they have a problem. And then we still get the patients that will just show up. Like a lot of patients will come in and see me for prenatal care, and if they are in complete denial, and I will talk to them about it at every visit, and then when it gets closer, I will be honest, you know, this is what's going to happen. Social services is going to come. You're not going to go home with your baby. I tell them what's going to happen to your baby, how they're going to withdraw. Oh, I'm on methadone, it's okay. Well, your baby withdraws from that too, and you're getting your methadone on the street, so it's not the same thing. And they're in denial. Those patients usually will go to another hospital and deliver. So, and I hear about it a month later when, you know, Adina or Grant or somebody's requesting records, and I say I know exactly who that is because I confronted her at her last visit, and I didn't see her for 4 weeks, and she had the baby somewhere else because they think, oh, nobody will find out. They're not going to get records. But it ebbs and flows. I think it just, this is a small community, so when they hear that there's help, I have patients that come in and they're crying and they're so grateful, and it's almost like having a baby is a great reason to get clean. It helps motivate a lot of my patients. And I do have some really good success stories that got clean during a pregnancy, and I've seen them later and they're still clean because of their children. So it ebbs and flows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was in a meeting and there was mention made of a Suboxone clinic for pregnant women. I wasn't aware of that. How's that run?
Well, I don't know if you guys know Dr. McMahon, but I don't know if he's doing it. I don't think he's doing it anymore because that was when I was talking about it was getting better. Women were getting help and they weren't ashamed to ask for help. But he got full very fast, and people were abusing the system, not showing up, and so he made the rules a lot more strict, and of course people drop out. I don't know about any Suboxone clinics in the area other than in Columbus. A lot of patients will tell me they're on methadone and Subutex, and then I try to track down their clinic, and I cannot find a clinic, so they're getting it on the street. And that's another problem. Then they think it's safe because, well, I'm taking Subutex or methadone off the street, that's safer than heroin. But babies withdraw just as bad from that. I mean, if it's a low dose, it's a less chance that they're going to withdraw, but I mean, moms on high doses of methadone, babies will withdraw the same way. I mean, I had one mom that her baby was in the NICU for 6 weeks, and she was on controlled methadone, prescribed methadone. So educating patients that just because it's not heroin, it doesn't mean your baby's going to be fine. I have that problem too, where they come in all the time. I'm on this, it'll be okay. My friend did this, her friend got out in a week. You know, so when I educate them, that can be pretty tough too.
So when a baby's born addicted at Berger, do you deal with it here, or are they transported to Children's?
Well, we try to keep them here as long as we can. I was trying to get statistics before I came, but what happens is they're born, and then the mom, you know, if it's a normal delivery, technically the mom's discharged in 24 to 48 hours. We try to keep the baby there depending on how many patients we have, but they need to stay. The withdrawal really starts in 24 to 72 hours. So they could be there for 24 hours and be fine, but the pediatricians want to keep the baby there to watch them. And we're basically watching to see, can they go home or do they need to be transferred to the NICU, you know, in Columbus, because we're trying to keep them with the mom. I think recently we had a baby who had to stay for 5 days at our hospital, and that baby did go home. But I've seen babies stay for 5 days and then they end up getting transferred because they're withdrawing too much. We can't treat their withdrawal symptoms. We can't do that, but we can see if they need treatment or not. So,
thank you. Okay, Jada, if a student tests positive and their card's taken away from them, how do you keep this from the rest of the club or the administration?
Well, we're lucky enough to be dealing with high school students who forget things. And so whenever something comes up and there's an incentive and they say bring your card and you get this, there's half the kids that don't remember anyway. And so we don't know that their card is gone. That's the only way that we find out is if the kid tells us themselves, which happens too. We've been pretty good so far though, so yeah, so that's
okay. Not quite sure if I understand this one, and whoever wants to answer this, what can we do on the prevention end of addiction? Recovery rates are low. Amy?
Unfortunately, like everything, there's budgeting problems with prevention. Recovery rates are low because it is a disease and the brain does change. But if you prevent, meaning you educate from, and it is the state law, K through 12, House Bill 367, that you must educate on opiates so they understand the harms of that. And prevention is not just educating on a drug. Prevention is decision making, goal setting, peer pressure, those things. It takes about 3 to 4 seconds to make a decision, and if you don't know the decision, the answer to your decision before it happens, you're going to make the one that fits you the best at the moment. And with kids, it's going to be the one that you fit in with the crowd. So we're educating them on what is the best decision, making them an informed decision, how to make that decision. So when that happens, they know the best decision to make, and it's much easier for them. Therefore, changing the rest of their life. The decisions that these kids are making now will change the rest of their life. And it's up to us, whether it be positive or negative. Prevention works. It's proven. It's called evidence-based. You can have clubs and you can have everything that are all well and good, but we need to do what's called universal prevention, which is prevention for everyone, which is prevention for the addict's kid, which is prevention for the person who's never seen a drugs kid, prevention for everyone. Everybody needs it. It doesn't matter. It's a non-discriminatory disease.
Thank you. I'm guessing, Amy, this is going to go back to you again. I kind of thought this would happen. What can a parent do to convince a son to come in and commit to rehab if they refuse to do so?
If your son's not 18 years old, then you are the parent. Be the parent. If your son is 18 years old, then you talk to him. These are the consequences of what's going to happen. I love you. I don't want to see you go through this. But unfortunately, one of the number one characteristics of the disease of addiction is denial. And unfortunately, your loved one's not going to realize what they need. So you have to take the step up and stop enabling. Not enable them because you feel sorry for them, but be that hard parent that gives them the love that's going to save their life in the future.
Thank you. Would you go so far to set up a situation with the authorities where they are arrested? That has been witnessed by a lot of people in this room, so that can be done. I know that answer. Okay. Is there a plan for the program to branch out to middle school or elementary school?
yes. This program is designed to go towards the middle school. What we're trying to do is bridge the gap that DARE has. DARE currently is offered in the 5th grade and the 7th grade, I believe, right? 5th and 7th? You guys have it? All right. And their plan is to kind of be that continuity all the way through high school. So yes, but we're trying to launch off before we go way too far down. I also talked to Deputy Dale, and we are working on ways that DARE and Club Future can work together, which will be really cool. He's pretty excited about all of that kind of stuff. We also have done some things with the elementary already. We did Breakfast with Santa. We've got the race coming up in the spring that we're going to do with the elementary kids. So we are working our way down there, positive role model, that kind of stuff as well.
Great. Amy, where does PARS get their funding?
I'm going to give you the on-the-record answer, and I'm going to give you the real answer. And I might get in trouble for this tomorrow. PARS gets some of their funding from the Adams Board. That's one of the reasons that we're trying to pass the levy. The Adams Board only gets so much funding. That's funding that comes from the state and gets filtered down, and there's only so much of that to give. And our Adams Board has been very generous to us, but they don't bring in enough money to do what we need to do. Our director, Barry Bennett, I've been with him for 10 years. He's never once turned away somebody that truly wanted treatment. That doesn't happen anywhere in this state. There's a school that wants prevention, and it is very expensive because you can't do prevention unless you have a license, and you have that, you pass that test and you have that license. You can't do that. They need this, their stats are high, they have kids using OD, and he said, then you do what's right. PARS does what's right. That's what happens at PARS.
Okay, Amy, hang on. Okay, are there support groups for parents of addicts in Pickaway County?
I could go through this whole big long story, but through the PAC, big meeting happened. What are some of the top things that needs to happen in Pickaway County? One of them was a meeting for education for parents. Those meetings typically are not successful because it's oftentimes a lot of parents just crying, and it's sad, and the grief is tremendous. I thought I got that until I truly got that. But we as in myself, Kim Tripp, and all my guys here, the one that's not an addict across the road there. And anyway, addicts are some of the best people I ever met, just saying. We get together every Tuesday night at 5 o'clock, and families of addicts, and we teach the top 13 things that parents and family members of addicts need to know. One, why can't you, if my drug of choice is heroin, why not drink alcohol? It's legal, right? No, it is legal, but no, an addict is an addict, a drug is a drug. 2, what is enabling? 3, how do you get through grief? Well, you don't get through it until you actually go through it. And this is all evidence-based stuff, and we, every Tuesday, 5 o'clock, 101.5 West Main Street, there's other people that's going through it. At a state level, I was at this meeting with a lady named Marcy Seidel, an initiative that Hope Taft started a long time ago through Drug Free Action Alliance. I felt like such a nobody at that meeting because who am I, just this little old whoever who's lost so many people and come from this crazy dysfunctional family. Marcy Seidel looks at me and says, Amy, only 1% of people like you will come forth and do something to make change. Are you going to stick with me or not? So I haven't stopped. And I'm asking you to help Pickaway County not be just 1%, because I, nor anybody on this panel, nor any of my staff who are all 100% vested in the passion of this can do this alone. We must stand up as a community.
Okay, Julie, how did your addicted son affect your family, specifically your younger children? Do you discuss this illness with your younger children?
Yeah, we didn't hide it from them. We wanted them to know what was going on and learn from their mistakes and make sure that, we couldn't allow my son to do the things and, not set a very good example for his siblings. And of course, they were more embarrassed about it and people talking about it, but we just were always open with it and felt like they needed to know what was going on, and everybody just learned from the mistakes.
Thank you. One last question here. Jada, are there support groups for grandparents raising grandchildren in Circleville?
Not that I know of. I don't know.
Okay, this one, well, maybe
you know
this,
that question?
Amy.
There we go. Yeah.
No, I guess the other question was for you, Jada. Sorry.
That's all right.
You're the expert now, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
The support group on on Tuesday night at 5 o'clock is for anyone. The only thing you have to do to be a part of that group is to walk upstairs. There is a huge number of grandparents raising grandchildren, and that is addiction. And you come there, we will totally help you in any way we can. We will get you the supports. We have a couple now that's pretty much raising their grandkids. You're not in this alone, not at all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, we've heard a lot of stories that could, kind of bring you down, but look at the success of this whole gathering here, all the people that took the time to come out tonight. We really appreciate you being here. And this is just the beginning. This is the first of 6 programs that are being offered through the One Book, One Community program. And if you haven't picked up one of these flyers already, there should be some back there at the table when you first came in. Tanja Spiller-Dome is going to be moderating book discussion on March 11th. Joyce Tatromanis on March 22nd. And that's going to be a time for people to talk about how the book Dreamland impacted you. On April 5th, there's going to be a program centered about how law enforcement's working with the community. And someone passed forward a card about how we propose to put an end to the demand for opiates. That would be a question that should be posed at that time. We're not in a situation here. There's no one on the panel that's in law enforcement. And then on April 19th, there will be an hour-long panel discussion about local treatment options for addicts. And there will be a variety of treatment programs represented on that panel. The culminating event of this program is on April 27th. Sam Quinones is going to be at Circleville High School. He is going to be signing books starting at 6 o'clock. If you have your own copy, bring it. He'll be glad to sign that. He will be selling books for $20 a piece. Starting at 7, he will do a presentation in the auditorium. If the auditorium fills up, which we hope it does, there's going to be an overflow area in the cafeteria with closed-circuit TV. After the question and answer period following his presentation, there will be another half hour of book signing. And at the same time, there will be a resource fair in the gymnasium. So if any of you went to the town hall meeting back in October, it's going to be similar to that. We have about 24 agencies and organizations that will be represented there. And in closing, we hope that you will share the book Dreamland with your family, with your friends, so that they can be part of the conversation and we can arm everybody with knowledge and understanding that this is a disease that we're dealing with. I would just want to thank everybody personally for making the time to be here tonight and being part of what's going to make our community the best it can be. And thank you for making a difference. Please check out the PAC website, DrugFreePickaway.com, and we do have some parent resource guides in the back of the room. If you would like to have one, they don't cost a penny. PAC is providing those. It's a great resource for parents, grandparents, or if you know someone that could use one. And there's a list of emergency numbers in the back of that. But thanks again for being here. We hope to see you at the first discussion on March 11th. Start reading.